Alright, hey guys. So I'm doing a review on the Blackhawk T-series level 2 holster. This is a non-light bearing holster and it is a level 2 retention holster. So basically what you end up with is you end up with a bar through the trigger guard that actually helps that pistol to stay in place. When I started reviewing this, one of the things that I asked Blackhawk for was I need about a month or two to review this thing. And the reason was I wanted to run this holster through multiple students and multiple classes in force-on-force type scenarios against some pretty violent guys that are not worried about whether or not they destroy my holster. And we did that, and I got to tell you, I was actually pleasantly surprised with how this thing stood up. When I started reviewing this, one of the things that I looked for was I looked for what Blackhawk's advertised criteria was, and then I looked for what I look for in a holster. I wanted to look for the durability of the holster in two respects. Number one, the shell itself had to be durable enough to be able to hold up to being ripped from there. I examined a couple other holsters. What we did was we took different students that had different levels of retention, level 2, level 3, and we just actually passed them around in class. Everybody tried on different things, and we just examined them from multiple different people's perspectives. So the shell itself has to be durable enough, and one of the things that I found is that when we took one of the safari lands, even though the retention bar actually did hold up, I was still able to rip the pistol free. Keep in mind, I'm not knocking some of these safari lands, there are multiple different models, but this particular model that we used, I was able to rip the pistol free by almost shearing the holster apart. So the body of the holster failed, even though the retention mechanism itself did not. However, in this particular holster, none of us could. I put it on, had other guys ripping it. I had other guys put it on while I sat there and tried to rip it. We went through force-on-force classes with this thing where I actually didn't even bother defending the pistol. I just wanted to see if other guys, as we're doing force-on-force, could try and get the pistol free from the holster. None could. Are you only trapping the guy, or are you trying to take it?
Well, actually, I don't really know how it comes out.
Well, that's
so
the point.
Okay.
I want you to test it and jerk it. You know, it's a new holster. That's one of the things I'm testing is how well it holds up.
Okay.
That's why I'm not defending it.
Gotcha. I knew you weren't defending it.
So, as we're sitting here, go ahead and I want you to, try and try and take the gun. It was actually very, very good, and I kind of credit that to a couple of different things. Number one, the way that the holster actually functions, the way that the retention mechanism actually functions, is that you cannot visibly see how this thing operates. And that's different than some of these other brands. That's different than some of theirs because a lot of them are designed in such a way that the retention release is actually visible. It's visible from both parties, both from an opponent perspective as well as from the user perspective. And that starts to become a little bit of an issue when you start going against trained individuals who do know how to actually take a weapon off of someone. Is you can actually articulate some of those mechanisms from the opponent side of the equation. So having a retention release that is actually situated in such a way that it is not visible and that you cannot look at this thing and spot how to get that pistol out is actually a benefit from a combative standpoint. By the same token, you can go too far and you can make that retention mechanism so hard to operate or so hard to find that the user cannot actually get to the mechanism as well. And that was not the case in this. One of the things that I like is that from here you're not going to get that out, but all it takes is just a depression with the thumb and I can pull the gun out just with my middle finger alone. So extremely smooth draw. but also extremely secure as well. One of the things that Blackhawk advertised is they advertised the fact that the holster was designed on the master grip principle, which if you've ever taken a class, you've ever done any kind of my Patreon videos or anything like that, master grip is something that I really stress. The fact that you can come in and you can actually get that pistol and without even looking at your sights, just looking down at the ground and you assign, you come out to that extension position and look up and you know your sights are aligned, that is a true plus for you being able to just get on target quickly. So that all starts with you being able to get a master grip from the holster. You want to be able to get that master grip as soon as possible. So literally as my hand comes down to get on that pistol, I want to be able to get that master grip right away. So as I come down and I actually seat my hand on that weapon, there is a thumb release on the inside between the holster and my body, which shields it very nicely. That allows me to be able to get in there and release that pistol. So without that release, if I hold this down, I'm sitting here ripping, pistol's not going anywhere. I can try and twist, turn it out. The body, the shell, the mount, all of it was very, very sturdy. I was very pleased with it. So just functions really, really well. So that being said, we looked at the body, we looked at how well it was going to hold up, we looked at the retention mechanism itself and whether or not it was going to hold up to the stresses of force on force. The other aspect of the retention mechanism is we wanted to look at it from the perspective of, was it going to impede my draw at all? One of the things that you've seen in the past is, you know, we take cold draw times. Right, this is my draw time cold. That's important. But not just cold draw times. We want to if we're going to use a shot timer for this, we want to make sure that we do so on a random timer, because guys can game that clock and they'll set it for 3-second delay, and then mentally in their mind, after they hit the start button, they're counting down 3, 2, 1, and then they draw literally on the buzzer, and what you end up with is these artificial shot times and stuff like that. But anyway, the point is we want to go ahead and use a cold draw time. And alright guys, so like I've talked about before, going ahead and using an IPSC shooting timer for the phone. One of the things that I always do is, you can see that it's set on random delay for 0 to 5 seconds. Watch for that, because you'll see a lot of guys on Instagram or YouTube or whatever with these super fast draw times and stuff, and what they're doing is they're gaming the shot clock. So I'm not saying that everybody does it, but it is a way to manipulate the shot timer. So one thing that you want to do, just to kind of hold yourself accountable, to be honest with what your capabilities are, is to set it to random. That way you don't know when it's going to go off. So when it goes off, then you react to it, and it's a much more accurate account of what your capabilities are. So we're going to go ahead and set this, and I'll set this right up here, and we'll just do a couple draws. Alright, so 0.92, not bad, cold, first draw. We'll go ahead and work out from there. That's again, retention. I don't carry retention all the time. You guys can probably get that time down a little lower, but I'm happy with that for my first go around on a retention holster. So 0.73. That's about right for me. Getting warmed up is right around 3/4 of a second. That's actually a little on the faster side, right around 0.75, 0.8 for me is pretty fast from concealment from a non-retention holster. So to be honest with you, I'm actually pretty happy with that, with a retention holster, to still be able to come up and stay in that 3/4 second range. So we'll go ahead and do another one, and then we're going to start moving. Okay, that one actually Caught me a little bit by surprise, but hey, that's good training. 0.77. So like I said, 3/4 of a second is pretty fast for me. So right out of the get-go, not operating retention holsters in a very long time, operated this thing and hit a sub-second draw, no problem, cold. Within 10-15 minutes, I would say, drawing on this thing, I was in the high 7s, low 8s, you know, in the high 0.7s, low 8s. I think I've got a picture that I can show you. It's 0.77 on the shot timer, but I did even hit a couple low 0.7s, but that was not the norm. The point being is that those times came down to my normal draw times. So the fact that this thing had a retention mechanism on it did not impede my draw at all. And that's something that's pretty important. I know some of the older Safari lands, you actually have to depress a thumb switch and then you actually rock the pistol forward and then you can come up and come to, you know, bring that weapon to bear. None of that. The way that this thing operates, it functions basically the same as if it had no retention mechanism at all. It's just come down, seat your hand on the weapon, and then you come right up because you're using that thumb between your body and the holster to go ahead and release the weapon itself. So it was very natural, didn't take any kind of learning curve or anything like that. Like I said, I was hitting my normal draw times within 10-15 minutes, no problem. So that being said, the Blackhawk advertisement had talked about the master grip principle. It also talked about the quietness of the polymer, and that was something that was kind of interesting to me as I started going through it and listening. Keeping in mind that when I come at things from a combatives perspective, if you see me drawing my pistol, or if I am drawing my pistol, I'm coming from the perspective of you're going to know it because I'm fixing to shoot you. But understanding that this is a duty holster that is geared towards law enforcement and military who may actually draw their weapons in preparation for a raid or some other type of act, I do see the benefits of the quiet polymer design, and I gotta say that it actually was. We just for fun, we did stick a pistol in a couple different holsters, and sure enough, the polymer that was there, it actually was much quieter than some of the other polymers that were out there. So kind of interesting. If that's something that benefits you, by all means, knock yourself out. If you're one of these guys who's stocking up for the apocalypse, maybe you don't care, but it was pretty interesting, and why not? So the shell, the retention mechanism, the ability to get that weapon out without impeding the draw. The other thing that we wanted to look for is we wanted to look at various different positions. So the mount in particular, one of the things that I look for personally based on my setup is I wanted to make sure that I can get the weapon out and still clear my body armor. Some of the other holsters that I've had in the past, I end up having to put a drop offset or something like that, and if you drop it down too much or if you offset it out too far, what you end up doing is you end up changing some of the leverage on the pistol or on the holster and the mount itself, and that forces you to end up putting a leg strap on. If a leg strap is something that you want, you think is super ninja cool and stuff, knock yourself out and stuff, but if I can get away with it without having to have it on, I'm going to. Right? Do a little bit of running with a leg strap on and all of a sudden your pants is all up in your crotch and stuff like that, and it's no fun. So I try to stay away from it if I can, but not to the expense of not being able to get the pistol out of the holster. So if you need it, put it on. If you don't, chuck it. And I was pretty happy the fact that the way that this mount was that came with it, it did drop it down slightly and it did cant the pistol out slightly, enough for me to clear my body armor and just into a natural position to be able to get my hand down on that pistol, but it didn't offset it enough to create a problem with me actually getting the pistol out. Like I said, some of the cases where I've dropped this thing down or put it out too much, it changes some of the leverage on that pistol, and when you come down hard on it and grab it, sometimes that pistol doesn't want to come free and you end up having to kind of twist it or whatever to get it out. I have had that on a couple of holsters. I'm not going to give you the name, but it rhymes with Blade Tech. So that being said, this particular holster, I did not have any trouble with that. It functioned great. Didn't matter whether I was laying down on the ground. I did some crazy stuff, front kicking, back kicking, side kicking, you know, everything short of a backflip ninja throw or something. I put it in every position I could conceivably think of in order to test out the holster. Had no problems. Pistol came out fine, no problem, regardless of what position I was putting myself in and how this thing was oriented. So all in all, the last thing that I looked at was I looked at the price point. Depending on who you go with, whether you're going with something like a Safariland, whether you're going with like a custom Vetter or a custom Red River Tactical or something like that that's got a retention setup on it, you're going to pay anywhere between $220 down to maybe $100 on the lower end, depending on what you get. Keep it in mind that you do kind of get what you pay for. One of the things that I looked for on this was I looked at the price point. The price point on this is $130, it's like $129.95, something like that, on Blackhawk's website. It comes with a 30-day trial period. Now I'm assuming that you have to buy the pistol or buy the holster from them, and then if you don't like it, you can send it back to them. And so it's basically kind of more along the lines of a money-back guarantee. I'm assuming how it works. But you can work that out on Blackhawk, look on their website and stuff, work it out with them. I do know that in order for you to get that 30-day trial thing, you have to order it from them. I don't think you can order it from like another supplier or something like that, or a vendor. So the fact that it came with this 30-day thing, I thought was kind of interesting, but it also shows a lot of confidence in your product, the fact that you're willing to throw that out there and be willing to kind of give people their money back if they're not pleased with it. But that being said, they offered that on there. It's $130. They believe they offer it in a light bearing level 2 and a non-light bearing. Like I said, I've got the non-light bearing here, and they also offer a level 3, which I'm hoping to get my hands on pretty quick and stuff, because I'd like to do a comparison between the level 2 and the level 3, as well as a Blackhawk level 3 against some other level 3s that we have in our group that train with us. So that being said, the $130 compared to some of the other brands that were out there, I can honestly tell you this: I would have paid more than $130 for this holster. Honestly, guys, I don't throw recommendations out there lightly. This was something that I was pleasantly surprised with, and I was actually pretty surprised that guys that were out there training with us who had various different models, they ended up kind of coming into the same camp as I was, that this was definitely a great holster for the money, and it did everything that it said it would do, in addition to some pretty brutal criteria that I put on it. So that being said, it's been through multiple force-on-force classes. We beat the crap out of this thing pretty hard. It still functions extremely smooth. You wouldn't even know the retention mechanism was there. It's so smooth in the draw. But you try and pull that thing out without depressing that thumb release, and you're not going to get it out. So all in all, good on Blackhawk, great holster, highly recommended. Go to their website, get it. I'm not getting paid for any of this or anything like that, but I do highly recommend this holster. If a duty holster is something that you need, I would highly recommend it. If it's not, well, you know, the apocalypse is coming soon enough anyway, and you guys can stock up for that. So anyway, you guys train hard.